Hi family, welcome back to ladensercrochets. If you're new to the channel, you're welcome. My name is Liz. Kindly subscribe and join the family. In this tutorial, we're making a maxi skirt using the solid shell stitch. Grab your materials and enjoy the tutorial. I'm using a medium weight yarn in color light blue. This is Winter King by Ken Knit, medium weight. A pair of scissors, a 4mm crochet hook, stitch markers, a darning needle, and a measuring tape. We begin with a slip knot, and our starting chain should be the hip measurement. So do the slip knot, then chain 5. Remove the hook from the 5th chain and hold it. Insert your hook into the 1st chain, then insert it back into the 5th chain, and continue chaining until you get your hip measurement. Make sure that your chain is a multiple of 2 or a number that is divisible by 2. I've worked 120 chains and I'm working a hip measurement of 44. So when I measure these out and stretch it, it should get me to 22 because it's folded into 2. So measuring from one end to the next, make sure that you stretch out your work. And as you can see, my work is stretching out to 22, which is exactly what I want to work with. So then we're going to complete this round by pulling that first loop, the second loop through the first loop, like that. Then we're going to chain 1 and go into that first chain, insert the hook and pull up a loop. To get 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through the 2 loops to complete a single crochet. Then yarn over, skip the chain that follows and work into the next one. Insert the hook and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 to complete a double crochet. Then we're going to go back into that chain with 2 more double crochets so that we get a total of 3. So that's 2 and 3. We skip the chain that follows, so we're going to skip this one and then work into the next one. Insert the hook, pull up a loop to get 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops to complete a single crochet. Then we skip, we first yarn over, then skip and place 3 double crochets into the next chain. So that's 1, 2 and 3. Skip the next chain and work a single crochet into the next one. Yarn over, skip 3 double crochets, skip next, then single crochet. And now that's the pattern that we're going to repeat until we get to the end. So next we yarn over and skip, then 3 double crochets. Now keep going with this pattern till we get to the end of row 1. As we come to the end, our last stitch should have 3 double crochets. Not our last, but our second last stitch. Now, to ensure that you end up with the 3 double crochets at the end, before the last chain, you should make sure that the multiple of 2 that you're going to chain will give you an even answer. Like 120 gives you 60 when you divide by 2, but 110 gives you 55. So 110 will not work. If you do 110, you will end up with a single crochet instead of the 3 double crochets. So make a chain of 2 that when you divide by 2, you get an even answer. I hope that makes sense. Then, after doing the 3 double crochets, we're going to complete row 1 by doing a slip stitch on top of the single crochet at the beginning. Then we're going to chain 2 and turn to begin row 2. Then we're going to go back into this stitch and work 2 double crochets. So the chain 2 is our first double crochet, and then we add 2 more double crochets to make it 3 double crochets. Then we skip this stitch and work into the second stitch. In that double crochet cluster, the stitch at the middle, we're going to place a single crochet. Then we're going to skip this one and work into the single crochet stitch, and we're going to place 3 double crochets there. Skip the next one, work in the middle stitch, place a single crochet, yarn over, skip the next one, work into the single crochet stitch and place 3 double crochets. Then a single crochet on top of the middle double crochet, 3 double crochets into the single crochet stitch, single crochet on top of the middle double crochet, 3 double crochets into the single stitch, into the single crochet stitch, and this is what we're going to get. Then we repeat that pattern to the end of row 2. At the end of row 2, the last stitch should be a single crochet. Then we're going to slip stitch on top of the chain 2 that we did at the beginning. So do a slip stitch into the chain 2 to complete row 2, then slip stitch into the next double crochet, chain 1 and turn to begin row 3. We start in that stitch and we're going to place a single crochet into it. Then the next stitch will be the single crochet stitch, which will get 3 double crochets. The middle double crochet will get a single crochet. The single crochet stitch will get 3 double crochets. One double crochet into the middle double crochet, 3 double crochets into the single crochet stitch, and repeat to the end. I'm coming to the end of row 3 and I'm going to place the 3 double crochets into the last single crochet stitch, and that will be our last stitches. Then slip stitch onto the single crochet from the beginning to complete row 3, chain 2 and turn to begin row 4. And we're going to work row 4 the same way we worked row 2. We start with 2 double crochets into that stitch where we've chained 2, so that together with the chain 2 we end up with 3 double crochets. Then a single crochet onto the middle double crochet from the previous row, 3 double crochets into the single crochet stitch, a single crochet into the middle double crochet, 3 double crochets into the next single crochet stitch, and then we repeat to the end of row 4. At the end of row 4, we're going to have a single crochet on top of the double crochet stitch, and then slip stitch onto the chain 2 from the beginning. We slip stitch again into the next double crochet, then chain 1 and turn to begin row 5, and we're going to work row 5 exactly the same way we did row 3. Begin with a single crochet into that stitch, skip onto the single crochet and work 3 double crochets. Then we're going to work a single crochet on top of the middle double crochet from the previous cluster, 3 double crochets into the single crochet stitch, and then we repeat to the end. And from this point, we're going to alternate between repeating row 2 and row 3. All the even rows will be worked the same, that is row 2, row 4, row 6, row 8, row 10, and so on. Then all the other odd rows, that is row 3, row 5, row 7, row 9, and so on, will be worked the same. So keep alternating between these 2 rows until you get the length of your skirt where you want your slit to begin, and I'll meet you there. I'm going to work a total of 24 rows, and then I'll be back. The 24 rows will give me a full length of 12 inches, which is what I'm going for. After the 24 rows, this is what I have, and at 12 inches, so we can confirm that. When we measure the length of the skirt, we do not stretch out, but as you've seen, I've done a little bit of a stretch because it seemed like it wasn't getting me to 12, but when I measured before, it was at 12, so I was just giving it a little bit of a stretch so that it gets there. Then I've gone ahead to work row 25, but I've not completed it. When you're working this row where we start doing our slit, make sure that it's a row that begins with a single crochet. So now when I come to the end, instead of slip stitching onto the single crochet, I'm going to go into that same stitch and do another single crochet there, so that I have a single crochet at the beginning and a single crochet at the end. Then I'll chain 2 and turn. So we are not connecting the row, we are leaving that part open so that we create the gap for the slip. Now for the slit, then we start with a double crochet into that same stitch, but we are only working 1 double crochet so that we have 2 of them. Then a single crochet on top of the double crochet in the middle. Then we're going to work the same way we've been doing, 3 double crochets onto the single crochet stitch. Then we're going to have a single crochet on top of the middle double crochet. Next we have 3 double crochets into the single crochet stitch, and then we're going to repeat the pattern as we've been doing it to the end of row 25. I'll meet you at the end of my row 25 and I'll show you how to finish it so that we begin row 26. I'm coming to the end of my row 25 and I'm doing a single crochet, and then at the end where we have the last single crochet, I'm going to do 2 double crochets. That means at the end and at the beginning we only do 2 double crochets, but all the other double crochets are 3. Chain 1 and turn. We are beginning row 26. It doesn't have to be 26 in your case. We begin with a single crochet into the first stitch. We skip the second stitch and work 3 double crochets into the single crochet stitch from the previous row, and then we repeat the pattern as we know it. The only difference is in the beginning and at the end. So at the beginning of the row that has a single crochet, we begin with a single crochet in the first stitch, just 1 single crochet. At the beginning of a row that starts with a double crochet or the chain 2, we begin with the chain 2 plus 1 more double crochet, and then we continue the pattern as we've been doing it. And we're going to repeat these rows, that is row 25 and row 26, till we get the full length of the skirt that we want. So from this point, I can leave you and let you continue working, repeat rows until you get to the full length of your skirt. I'll do that, then come back and I'll show you how to do the ribbing on the waistband. As you can see, we do not have a waistband, and we're going to be doing that ribbing at the end. After several rows, this is what I have. I haven't gotten to my full length, but I feel like before I continue, because I don't need to show you the recording for this part, we can just do the ribbing on the waistband and then I'll do the extension later. So let's do the ribbing. Beginning from that point, I'm going to get the yarn, do a slip knot, and then reconnect the yarn there, and we're going to do the ribbing. So start with a slip knot, and then we're going to chain 10. So chain 10, 1 up to 10. Now get that point where we began after getting your 10 chains, and into that gap, which was the stitch where we skipped, we're going to insert our hook and pull up a loop to slip stitch, and then we're going to go to the next stitch and do a second slip stitch and then turn our work. Then we're going to do single crochets into each of the stitches, not single crochets but slip stitches into each of the 10 stitches. So we should have a total of 10 slip stitches. So right here I'm just doing my third slip stitch, and I'll keep going till I've worked a slip stitch into all the chains. I'm doing my last slip stitch, and that is the end of row 1 of the ribbon. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 2. We're going to work in the back loops. So insert your hook into the first back loop of that stitch and pull up a loop to complete a slip stitch. Then work a slip stitch into the back loop of the second stitch, and we're going to work a total of 10 slip stitches in the back loops. I'm coming to the end of row 2 and I'm just doing my last slip stitch. And once we get to the last one, we're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch. Make sure you do not skip any stitch on the skirt. Remember, we had the gaps where we had skipped, so remember to work into that gap. Remember to work onto the stitch that had the single crochet, the next gap, and the stitch that had the 3 double crochets. Now begin row 3 in the back loop and work a total of 10 slip stitches. Actually, we are working 9. Work a total of 9 slip stitches into the back loops. Then as we come to the end on this side, we're going to work the 2 loops. So this is the back loop, but instead of just working the back loop, I'm going to work both the front and the back loop. We want our ribbon to be tight at the end on the top part of the skirt, and that's why we're working both loops. So then chain 1 and turn to begin row 4 of the ribbon. And as we go towards the skirt, we work all the stitches in the back loop, including the first one. So place a slip stitch into all the back loops for a total of 10. And this pattern is very simple. You're just going to work like this and make sure that you're placing a slip stitch into each of the stitches. So I've come to the end of row 5. So I'm going to go into the next stitch and do a slip stitch. Then into the next one, I'll do the second slip stitch and then turn to begin. This is row 5, I think. I'm not even sure about the number. But now we do slip stitches and make sure that we are placing a row of the ribbon into each of the stitches in the beginning. So now keep going, and I'll meet you once I've gone all the way around the waistband of the skirt. At the end of this row, make sure that you place, I seem to have skipped a stitch at the beginning because I've ended up with 9 stitches. So I'll just go back and get that stitch that I missed. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the 10 stitch in the 2 loops. Then chain 1 and turn to begin. I think this is row 6. I've worked my ribbon all around the skirt and I'm coming to the end. I'm just in my final rows, just doing the back loop slip stitches into each of the rows and making sure that when I come to the skirt, I'm slip stitching twice into the stitches, into 2 stitches at the bottom. You just need to make sure that you do not skip any of the stitches on the first row of the skirt that we did. So now I'll just keep going and then I'll show you how to complete when I come to the end. So right here, I'm just showing you my last few rows of the ribbon before we get to the end. This is my second last stitch on the skirt. So I'll slip stitch into it, then slip stitch onto the very first stitch and turn. And this is going to be my last row of the ribbon. Then I'll do a slip stitch for a total of 9 stitches in the back loop. Then in the 10th stitch, we're going to do the 2 loops. So that's the 9th. Then into the 10th, I'll do a slip stitch into my 2 loops. Then I'll chain 1 and cut off the yarn, leaving an end that we're going to use to connect the 2 ends of the ribbon. So cut off the yarn and pull the yarn through. Then this is what we have. As you can see, it seems very tiny, but it stretches. It's a ribbon, so it stretches. So we're going to turn to the wrong side of the skirt and get the darning needle. We're going to use it to connect the 2 ends, the first row and the last row of the ribbon. And I'm going to work two loops on this side, the side where I started, then 1 loop on my last row. In the first stitch, we work 2 loops on the first row, 1 loop on the last row. So 2 loops in the second stitch, 1 loop on the second stitch on the other side. As I do that, I'm working over that end that is at the beginning. So I just want to work over it to weave it in. So we are in the second stitch, then we're going to go into the 3rd stitch, and onto the 3rd stitch we're going to work the both loops, 2 loops on this side, 1 loop on the other side. When I talk about this side, I'm talking about the side where we have the very first row that we did, then 2 loops on the 4th stitch, 1 loop on the 4th stitch on the other side, and we're just going to keep going till we've connected all the stitches. After connecting the stitches, this is what we have on the right side. You can almost not tell that we've done the sewing right there. Then we're going to close up that gap at the end. So close it up. And then after we've done that, we're going to close up the one at the bottom of the ribbon, just like that. And then we weave in that end. Because our ribbon is fully connected, I'm first going to cut off this yarn because I've already worked over it. It's weaved in. So then I'll weave in the end that has remained after stitching the 2 rows together. So I'll just go inside the stitches and weave it in until I'm satisfied that it's well hidden. And once it's well hidden, I'll just get my pair of scissors and cut it off. So now the ribbon is well attached onto the skirt. As you can see, it's pulled, it's gathered the waist together, and it's perfect. You can go on, try it on and see whether it fits. If it's a bit big, you can do a a strap that you're going to attach onto the ribbon to draw the waist together. And yeah, so that is what we have. Now I'll just keep going with the bottom part of the skirt, extend it until I get to the length that I want, and I'll meet you once I'm done. I'm done with the skirt, and I've done a total of 75 rows to get me to a length of 35 inches. Let's confirm that. So measuring from the waist all the way down, I'm getting to 36 inches. I set out to work 40 inches, which is my full length as a maxi skirt, but then I ran out of yarn, so I went up to 36, and I'm just going to show you how to work the final row on the skirt. Before you do this last row, ensure that you've worked a row that ends with a single crochet, and so we're going to insert our hook back into that single crochet stitch. Then we're going to chain 3, 2 and 3, and then we're going to turn. So turn your work and start working from that single crochet stitch, and into that stitch I'm going to place a total of 3 double crochets. So together with the chain 3 we'll have 4, so that's 1, 2 and 3. Then we're going to skip all the double crochet stitches and work into the single crochet. The next single crochet we're going to slip stitch, and then we're going to chain 3, then yarn over and do 3 double crochets into that stitch. So that is 1, then 2 and 3. Then we're going to skip over to the next single crochet stitch, do a slip stitch, then we chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, then into that stitch we place 3 double crochets. Next we skip over to the next single crochet stitch, slip stitch, chain 3, 3 double crochets into the same stitch, and this is the pattern that we're going to repeat till we get to the end of this last row. I'll meet you at the end and show you how to finish that row. I'm coming towards the end of the row, and I'm just placing my 3 double crochets into the single crochet stitch, then slip stitch, chain 3, 3 double crochets into that single crochet stitch. That is the third one. Then slip stitch next, and then chain 3 and place 3 double crochets into that same stitch. Finally, we have a single crochet stitch at the end, and we're just going to slip stitch into it. Then chain 1 and cut off the yarn at that point, and we are done with that last row of the edging on the bottom part. This is the yarn that I have remaining from my 8 balls of yarn that I had. Then we're going to pull through the yarn through after cutting it off, get the darning needle and weave it in. This is the only end that I have remaining, so I'm going to weave it in, and once I'm done weaving in that end, I'll be done with the skirt. Now this right here is a skirt. You can do a chain and attach it to the waistband in order for you to be able to draw it and make it tight on your waist. So just get your yarn and your hook. I'm using a smaller hook just to do that chain because I'm not doubling my strands, and I'm going to do a total of 200 chains. Then I'll attach that strap onto the waistband. I have the chain ready, and so I'm going to get the darning needle and use it to attach that strap onto the waist. So just put it through the darning needle, and we're going to start from the point where we have the slit. On the line where we have the slits, that's where we're going to attach from the top. So I'll just go into the rows. So I'm skipping 2 rows from inside, 1 row from outside, and then I'll just go all the way around. the skirt attaching that strap. I'm done attaching the strap and completely done with the skirt. So thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the tutorial. If you've enjoyed the tutorial, kindly leave a like, a comment, share, subscribe if you're not subscribed. And when you get to recreate this, please tag me on my social media pages. I'll be reposting your work. If you feel like leaving a special thanks for this video, kindly click on the thanks button and I'll appreciate you a lot. See you in the next tutorial.